There's something almost poetic about watching an empire crumble in slow motion. And that's exactly what's been happening over the last 15 years to one of construction's most iconic machines, the backhoe loader, that yellow beast with a bucket on one end and a digging arm on the other, this Swiss Army knife of construction equipment, the machine that built suburban America. It's not gone yet, not completely, but the numbers don't lie. In the 12 months ending June 2025, new backhoe loader sales in the United States dropped 16.7%. Used sales fell 15.4%. And here's the real gut punch. Backhoe loaders now represent just 1.4% of all new financed construction equipment sold in America. 1.4%. For a machine that once dominated job sites across the country, that's not just a decline, that's a collapse. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back, way back to 1947, to a time when construction was still mostly done by hand, when hydraulics were barely understood, and when two guys in Massachusetts were about to accidentally invent the future. Vino Holopainen and Roy E. Handy Jr. weren't trying to revolutionize anything, they were just tinkering. Early 1947, Hubbardston, Massachusetts. They'd built a hydraulic digging apparatus for the back of a tractor, nothing fancy, just trying to make excavation work a little easier. And one day, Roy had an idea. What if the digging arm could swing, not just dig straight back, but swing to either side to dump the load? It sounds obvious now, doesn't it? But in 1947, this was breakthrough thinking. Holopainen filed patent number 2,698,697 in July 1948, the swing frame. That patent also included something else nobody had thought of, stabilizer bars to distribute the digging forces. Later, these would evolve into individual outriggers we see today. In April 1948, Wayne Roy Corporation, the company Holopainen and Handy founded, sold their very first all-hydraulic backhoe, mounted to a Ford Model 8N tractor. Sold it to the Connecticut Light and Power Company for $705. By the end of 1948, they'd built 24 units. Between 1948 and early 1954, they manufactured and sold approximately 7,000 Wayne Roy backhoes, mainly through Ford dealers. 7,000 machines that changed how America dug holes. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, another inventor was having his own eureka moment. Joseph Cyril Bamford, JCB. In 1953, while on a business trip to Norway, Bamford saw a lightweight excavator on a trailer hitched to the back of a tractor. Simple concept, elegant, but Bamford saw something more. He attached a prototype excavator with hydraulic arms to the back of a front loader he'd already designed, the Mark I. For the first time, a single machine combined a front shovel and rear excavator arm. One machine, two functions, one operator. That was the key. Now, here's where American business instincts kicked in. In 1957, Case Corporation introduced what they called the first integrated tractor loader backhoe in the United States, the Model 320. What made it integrated? Every component, the tractor, the loader, the backhoe, all manufactured and warranted by the same company. No more cobbling together parts from 3 different manufacturers and hoping they played nice together. Case had just standardized the concept, and it was brilliant. The timing couldn't have been better. Post-World War II America was exploding with construction. The GI Bill put millions of servicemen into new homes. Between 1946 and 1948, 2.5 million homes were built. By the 1950s, nearly 2/3 of all industrial construction was happening outside cities. Suburban America was forming, and every suburb needed roads, sewer lines, water mains, gas lines, electrical conduits, all underground, all requiring excavation. The backhoe loader was perfectly positioned to ride this wave. Small enough to work in residential streets, powerful enough to dig utility trenches, versatile enough to handle a dozen different tasks without switching machines. A contractor could show up to a job site with one backhoe loader and accomplish what used to require a dedicated excavator, a separate loader, and multiple pieces of equipment being hauled around on trailers. The economics were undeniable. The utility was unquestionable. By the 1960s, backhoe loaders weren't just tools, they were essential. JCB introduced dual hydraulics, 3-in-1 buckets, extending dipper arms. Case developed the Extendaho design, which could extend the dipper from 4 to 8 feet longer. Every manufacturer was racing to add features, improve performance, make their machines more capable. The technology was evolving rapidly, but the core concept remained unchanged. One machine, two ends, infinite utility. In 1970, High Dynamic, a division of Bucyrus Erie, became the first company to incorporate four-wheel drive into their backhoe loaders. The Dynahoe could now go over almost any terrain with little difficulty. By the early 1980s, JCB launched the 3CX Sightmaster, which introduced what we now recognize as the modern backhoe loader: 6-in-1 clam shovel front bucket with fold-over forks, telescopic dipper arm with lifting hook. This thing could do everything. And contractors bought them by the thousands, by the tens of thousands. JCB alone would eventually manufacture over 1 million backhoe loaders, 1 million machines. Think about that number. 1 million machines, each one representing a small business, a contractor, a company that believed the backhoe loader was the right tool for their operation. For decades, that belief was justified. The backhoe loader wasn't just popular, it was dominant. But dominance breeds complacency, and while backhoe manufacturers were refining their existing concept, adding more gears, improving the cab comfort, tweaking hydraulic systems, something else was happening at the margins of the industry. Something small, something that seemed, at first, almost irrelevant. The 1970s and 80s were, well, they were the glory days. If you were in the backhoe loader business, you were printing money. JCB dominated Europe. Case owned huge chunks of North America. Caterpillar was muscling in with their characteristic yellow branding and dealer network that could get parts to Antarctica if you needed them. John Deere leveraged their agricultural reputation to become a serious player. These weren't just machines anymore. They were brands, identities. In Britain and Ireland, people didn't ask for a backhoe loader. They asked for a JCD. The name had become generic, like Kleenex or Xerox. That's not just market dominance, that's cultural penetration. The machines themselves were getting better year over year. Bigger engines, more horsepower, better hydraulics, enclosed cabs with heat and air conditioning, power shift transmissions that let operators change gears without clutching, four-wheel steer that let you drive the thing like a regular vehicle on the highway, or switch to crab steer for maneuvering in tight spaces. These weren't your grandfather's tractor-mounted backhoes anymore. These were sophisticated pieces of engineering, and the applications kept expanding. Construction, obviously, that was the core market, but backhoe loaders found homes in utilities work, landscaping, agriculture, municipalities, rental fleets, any operation that needed to dig, load, lift, or move material in relatively confined spaces. The versatility was the selling point. Why buy 3 separate machines when one backhoe loader could handle 70% of your daily tasks? The economics worked. A backhoe loader in the 1980s cost maybe $60,000 to $80,000 depending on the model and options. Expensive, sure, but compare that to buying a dedicated excavator for $40,000, a wheel loader for another $40,000, and you're already ahead before you even factor in the maintenance, insurance, and operator costs of running multiple machines. One machine, one operator, one maintenance schedule. The math was simple. Rental companies loved them. Sunbelt Rentals, United Rentals, Hertz Equipment, these companies were building massive fleets of backhoe loaders because contractors rented them constantly. Weekend warrior contractors, small builders, utility companies doing emergency repairs, everyone needed a backhoe at some point. And the rental model meant you didn't need to justify the full purchase price. Rent it for the week you need it, return it, done. The backhoe loader became the default answer to the question, what equipment do we need for this job? Manufacturers were refining the formula. JCB's 3CX became legendary for reliability. Case's 580 series was everywhere. Caterpillar's 420 was the machine municipalities bought because they knew CAT's dealer network would keep it running for 20 years. John Deere's 310 was the choice for agricultural operations that needed a machine that could work the farm 6 days a week and handle construction projects on the 7th. The used market was robust. A well-maintained backhoe loader from the late 80s could still command $20,000 to $30,000 in the late 90s. Depreciation was predictable. Banks knew how to finance them, insurance companies knew how to rate them. The entire ecosystem had settled into a comfortable, profitable equilibrium. But here's what nobody in the backhoe loader business was paying attention to in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Over in Europe, and increasingly in Japan, manufacturers were developing something different: compact excavators, mini excavators. These weren't backhoe loaders. They were dedicated digging machines, small, maneuverable, purpose-built for excavation. And at first, nobody in North America cared. They were curiosities, toys. How much work could you possibly get done with a 3-ton excavator? Turns out, quite a lot. See, the backhoe loader was designed as a compromise machine, good at many things, great at none. The front loader bucket was smaller than a dedicated wheel loader, the backhoe was less powerful than a dedicated excavator, the frame had to accommodate both functions, which meant design compromises everywhere. You couldn't optimize one end without degrading the other. It was the engineering equivalent of a minivan. Practical, versatile, nobody's first choice for any single task, but acceptable for all of them. The mini excavator was different. It did one thing, digging, but it did that one thing extremely well. The tracks gave it stability on soft ground. The 360-degree rotation meant the operator could dig in any direction without repositioning the machine. The dedicated design meant every component could be optimized for excavation performance. And here's the kicker. The prices started dropping. By the mid-1990s, you could buy a decent mini excavator for $25,000 to $30,000. That was less than half the price of a new backhoe loader. Sure, you lost the front loader function, but how often were you really using that front bucket anyway? Most backhoe operators spent 80% of their time with the seat turned around, running the backhoe end. The front loader was there for occasional material moving, but it wasn't the primary function for most applications. Contractors started doing the math. If I'm mostly digging and I can get a machine dedicated to digging for half the price, and it actually digs better than the backhoe end of a backhoe loader, why am I buying a backhoe loader? The question started quiet, a few contractors here and there, but once it was asked, it couldn't be unasked. And then, in the late 1990s, something else arrived. Compact track loaders. These were different again. Small skid steers on tracks instead of wheels. They could load material, they could grade, they could work in mud and snow where wheeled equipment bogged down, and critically, they could accept the same quick attach system that skid steers used, which meant hundreds of available attachments. Buckets, forks, augers, trenchers, planers, brooms. Suddenly, you had a machine that was almost as versatile as a backhoe loader, but smaller, cheaper, and more adaptable. Backhoe loader manufacturers didn't panic. Not yet. These compact machines were niche products. They'd find their market, sure, but they'd never replace the backhoe loader. The backhoe loader was too established, too proven, too essential. That was the thinking in 1999. By 2005, that thinking would be revealed as catastrophically wrong.
The cracks didn't appear all at once. It was gradual, insidious even. In 2000, if you'd asked any equipment dealer in America what the most popular compact construction machine was, they'd have said backhoe loader without hesitation. By 2010, that answer was changing. Not everywhere, not universally, but enough to be noticeable. Mini excavators were showing up on more and more job sites, compact track loaders were becoming common, and backhoe loaders were starting to look, well, old-fashioned. The mini excavator manufacturers figured out something that took the backhoe industry completely by surprise. Specialization beats versatility when the specialized machine costs less and performs better at the primary task. Most contractors were buying backhoe loaders for the backhoe function. The loader end was secondary, useful but not essential. So many excavator companies asked a simple question: what if we just gave you the digging end? Better performance, lower price, simpler maintenance. Kubota was aggressive with the strategy. Their compact excavators came to market priced to compete directly against used backhoe loaders. You could buy a new 3-ton Kubota mini excavator for what a 5-year-old backhoe loader cost. New machine, full warranty, better digging performance. The value proposition was compelling. Bobcat approached it differently. They dominated the skid steer market for decades. In the early 2000s, they started building compact excavators and marketing them through their massive dealer network. Suddenly, every Bobcat dealer in North America was pushing mini excavators alongside skid steers. The distribution advantage was enormous. A contractor could walk into any Bobcat dealer and see both machines side by side. Sales reps would demonstrate how a mini excavator and a skid steer could replace a backhoe loader, while giving better performance in both loading and digging applications. The numbers were starting to shift.
In 2005, backhoe loaders still outsold mini excavators in North America. By 2010, mini excavators had caught up. By 2015, they were outselling backhoes 2-to-1. The trend line was unmistakable. And here's what made it worse for backhoe manufacturers. The used market started collapsing. Backhoe loaders had always held value reasonably well, but when contractors started switching to compact equipment, they dumped their backhoes on the used market. Supply flooded, demand dropped, depreciation accelerated. A 5-year-old backhoe loader that should have been worth 40% of its original purchase price was suddenly worth 25% or less. Dealers noticed. Rental companies noticed. Finance companies noticed. The residual values that underpinned equipment financing were deteriorating. Banks got nervous about lending against backhoe loaders when the collateral was depreciating faster than the loan amortization. This created a feedback loop. Harder to finance meant fewer sales. Fewer sales meant more used inventory. More used inventory meant lower prices. Lower prices meant even worse residuals. It was a spiral. The technology gap widened. Many excavator manufacturers were innovating rapidly. Rubber tracks that didn't tear up pavement, zero tail swing designs that let you dig next to walls without the back end hitting anything, hydraulic quick couplers that let you change buckets in 30 seconds, telematics that tracked machine location, hours, and maintenance needs. By 2015, a modern mini excavator had features that backhoe loaders wouldn't get for another 5 years. Compact track loaders were doing the same thing on the loading side. Radial lift versus vertical lift arms, higher lift capacity, better visibility, cab-forward designs that improved balance and control. And those quick-attach systems meant a compact track loader could become a dozen different machines with the right attachments. Contractors loved the flexibility. Urban construction accelerated the shift. As cities densified, job sites got tighter. A backhoe loader is big, 14 feet long, 7 feet wide, 8 feet tall. You need space to maneuver it. A mini excavator? 10 feet long, 5 feet wide, fits in spaces where a backhoe can't even turn around. When you're working in downtown environments, fixing infrastructure in narrow streets, doing utility repairs in congested areas, size matters. Smaller machines meant less disruption. Less disruption meant faster job completion. Faster completion meant happier municipalities and property owners. The European experience was instructive. Mini excavators had essentially replaced backhoe loaders across most of Europe by 2005. Britain, where backhoe loaders were called JCBs and were practically a national institution, saw mini excavators take over. Why? Roads are narrower in Europe, job sites are more constrained, and Europeans had realized earlier that purpose-built excavation equipment outperformed multi-purpose machines. In 2010, industry analysts started publishing articles about whether North America would follow Europe's lead. Backhoe manufacturers said no, their machines were different. Americans valued versatility, the loader function was critical, road-going capability mattered. Americans weren't going to abandon backhoes. They were wrong. The data was already showing it. In 2012, market research firm Off-Highway Research published a study showing backhoe loader sales declining steadily while mini excavator sales were growing at 15% annually. The trend line was accelerating, not plateauing. Manufacturers tried fighting back. JCB introduced the 1CXT, a compact backhoe loader that competed directly with mini excavators on size. It flopped. Too expensive compared to mini excavators, not enough digging performance compared to full-size backhoes. It fell into the worst possible space. Too small to be a real backhoe, too expensive to compete with compact equipment. Case launched electric model concepts. Caterpillar invested in automated controls. John Deere improved cab comfort and visibility. All good features, all irrelevant to the fundamental problem. The backhoe loader was a compromise machine in an era where contractors were discovering they didn't need to compromise anymore. By 2015, the writing was on the wall. Mini excavators were the future of compact excavation, compact track loaders were the future of compact loading, and the backhoe loader was becoming a relic, still useful in specific applications, still sold in decent numbers, but no longer the default choice, no longer the machine every contractor needed. The rental fleet started shifting. Sunbelt and United Rentals began replacing aging backhoes with mini excavators and compact track loaders. Rental customers were asking for the compact equipment by name. The backhoe loader was still available, still rentable, but it was becoming a specialty item rather than a staple. In 2018, Equipment World published market data showing that backhoe loaders now represented less than 5% of compact construction equipment sales. 5 years ago, they'd been 15%. The collapse was accelerating, and everyone in the industry knew it, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. The end wasn't here yet, but it was visible on the horizon.
By 2020, the backhoe loader wasn't dead, but it was dying. And the COVID-19 pandemic, ironically, accelerated the decline. When construction shut down in spring 2020, equipment dealers and rental companies had to decide which machines to keep, which to sell, which to scrap. Backhoe loaders were first on the chopping block. The reason was simple. Versatility doesn't matter when you can't rent anything to anybody. What mattered was having the machines contractors wanted when work resumed. And contractors wanted mini excavators and compact track loaders. The numbers from Equipment Data Associates tell the story with brutal clarity. From July 2024 to June 2025, new backhoe loader sales in the United States dropped to 2,120 units, a 16.7% decline from the previous year. Used financed sales fell to 2,823 units, down 15.4%. These aren't fluctuations, these are structural declines. The market isn't pausing, it's shrinking. And here's the number that should terrify backhoe manufacturers. Backhoe loaders now account for just 1.4% of all new financed construction equipment sold in America. 1.4%. Think about what that means. Out of every 100 machines financed, fewer than 2 are backhoe loaders. The machine that once dominated compact construction has become a niche product. Meanwhile, mini excavators are everywhere. Compact track loaders are everywhere. Skid steers are everywhere. Go to any construction site, any utility project, any landscaping job, and you'll see compact equipment. You might see a backhoe loader, but probably not. Texas, historically the strongest backhoe market in America, accounted for 22.3% of new backhoe sales in the reporting period. That sounds good until you realize Texas has massive construction activity and represents a huge portion of all construction equipment sales nationwide. The fact that Texas, the most backhoe-friendly state in the country, can only generate 22% of national sales shows how weak the overall market has become. Caterpillar maintained its market leadership with 36.6% share. John Deere held 29%. Case was third with 19.5%. But leadership in a shrinking market isn't leadership. It's being the tallest person in a room that's filling with water. These manufacturers are fighting over diminishing returns. The average auction price for a used backhoe loader hasn't kept pace with inflation or the used equipment market in general. In February 2025, a 2023 Cat 420XE sold for $130,250 at auction in Manassas, Virginia. That's the top auction price for the entire reporting period. A 2-year-old machine selling for that price suggests residual values are holding okay. But dig deeper into the auction data and you see the problem. Most backhoes are selling for much less. The high-end sales involve nearly new machines with low hours. The bulk of the used market, machines with 3 to 10 years of use, those are selling for fractions of their original cost. Depreciation is brutal. Compact equipment, by contrast, holds value remarkably well. A 3-year-old Bobcat mini excavator will retain 50 to 60% of its purchase price. A similarly aged backhoe loader might retain 35 to 40%. That difference matters enormously when contractors are deciding what to buy. Lower depreciation means better return on investment. Better return means more sales. More sales means manufacturers invest in better technology. Better technology drives more sales. It's a virtuous cycle for compact equipment and a vicious cycle for backhoe loaders. Manufacturers have tried adapting. JCB introduced their next-generation 3CX and 4CX models in 2025, with upgraded transmissions, redesigned cabs, improved hydraulics. Good machines, well-engineered, but incremental improvements don't solve existential problems. John Deere teased their new backhoe lineup with overhauled cabs and better visibility. Same story. Nice features, not game changers. Case launched the 580 EV, an electric backhoe loader. Bold move. Electric construction equipment is gaining traction, but electric isn't solving the fundamental problem. The issue isn't the power source. The issue is that contractors increasingly don't need or want a multi-purpose machine. They want specialized equipment that excels at specific tasks.
electric power doesn't change that calculation. The specialized nature of modern construction is part of the problem. Job sites are more complex, regulations are stricter, safety requirements are tighter, quality expectations are higher. Contractors can't afford mistakes or inefficiency. Using the right tool for the job isn't a luxury anymore, it's a necessity. And the right tool for digging is a mini excavator. The right tool for loading is a compact track loader or skid steer. The right tool for, well, there aren't many jobs where a backhoe loader is the right tool anymore. Municipalities are one of the remaining strongholds, small cities and towns that need one machine to handle multiple tasks, fixing roads, maintaining parks, clearing snow, digging waterline repairs. A backhoe loader still makes sense for them. One machine, one operator, one maintenance bay. The budget constraints of small municipalities mean they can't afford specialized fleets. The backhoe loader survives by default. Utilities are similar. Electric companies, gas companies, water departments, they need machines that can dig trenches, move material, and drive between job sites on public roads. A mini excavator on a trailer adds complexity and cost. A backhoe loader can drive itself. That road-going capability remains a legitimate advantage, but even here, the market is eroding. Many utility contractors now run mini excavators on equipment trailers because the digging performance is so much better that the added logistics are worth it. Agriculture is holding on. Farmers have always valued versatility because they have diverse needs and limited budgets. A backhoe loader can dig drainage ditches, move round bales, load manure, grade driveways, and handle 50 other farm tasks. But even in agriculture, compact equipment is making inroads. A compact track loader with the right attachments can do most of those tasks, and more farmers are discovering that owning two smaller machines gives more flexibility than one larger multi-purpose machine. The global picture is mixed. Asia-Pacific remains relatively strong for backhoe loaders, especially in India, where they account for nearly half of all construction equipment in unit terms. But that's a different market with different economics and different infrastructure needs. India's backhoe market doesn't change the fact that in North America and Europe, the markets that pioneered the backhoe loader, the machine is in terminal decline. Manufacturers know this. They don't say it publicly, but internal strategy documents tell the story. Investment in backhoe loader development has declined. R&D budgets shifted to compact equipment. New factories are being built for many excavators and compact track loaders, not backhoes. The writing is on every wall in every executive conference room. The backhoe loader era is ending.
So here we are, 2025. And the question isn't whether the backhoe loader will survive, it's whether it matters that it's disappearing. Because make no mistake, this is disappearance. Not extinction, not yet, but a slow fade into irrelevance that feels somehow more cruel than a sudden death would be. The machines still exist, dealers still sell them, contractors still buy them, but the context has changed completely. In 1995, the question was which backhoe loader to buy. In 2025, the question is whether to buy a backhoe loader at all. That shift represents a fundamental change in how the construction equipment industry thinks about utility and specialization. The forces driving this change aren't slowing down, they're accelerating. Compact equipment manufacturers are innovating faster than ever. Electric models are coming to market with impressive performance. Mini excavators with 40 to 80 kilowatt-hour batteries can run full shifts on a single charge. Compact track loaders with electric drive systems are quieter, smoother, and more efficient than diesel counterparts. The technology is improving while prices are dropping. That's a powerful combination. Autonomous operation is coming too. Several manufacturers demonstrated autonomous mini excavators at ConExpo 2023. Grade control systems that once required skilled operators are now pushing toward machines that can dig to specification with minimal human input. Backhoe loaders, with their multi-purpose design and complex operation, are harder to automate than specialized machines, another disadvantage in an industry moving rapidly toward autonomy. The environmental pressure is real and growing. Emission regulations tighten every few years. Tier 4 final, Stage 5 in Europe. Every new standard makes diesel engines more complex and expensive. Electric power solves the emission problem entirely, but electric backhoe loaders face packaging challenges. Where do you put the batteries in a machine that needs to balance weight between front and rear functions? Mini excavators and compact track loaders have simpler packaging. Batteries go in the counterweight.
Problem solved. The backhoe loader's compromised design is a liability here too. Job site density continues increasing. Urban construction is constrained by space. Infrastructure repair happens in narrow streets. New development occurs on tight parcels. Every square foot matters. Smaller machines mean less disruption, faster setup, better productivity in confined spaces. The backhoe loader is simply too big for many modern applications, and in cases where size doesn't matter, specialized equipment still performs better at individual tasks. The backhoe loader is being squeezed from both sides, too big for tight spaces, too generalized for open spaces. The operator shortage paradoxically helps compact equipment. There aren't enough skilled equipment operators to fill available positions, but compact equipment is easier to operate than backhoe loaders. A mini excavator has simpler controls. The learning curve is shorter. A new operator can become productive on a mini excavator in days. A backhoe loader takes weeks to master because you're essentially learning two different machines. Contractors can't afford long training periods. They need operators productive quickly. Compact equipment delivers that. Rental market dynamics have shifted permanently. 10 years ago, rental companies maintained significant backhoe inventory because demand was steady. Today, rental companies are reducing backhoe inventory and expanding compact equipment fleets. United Rentals, Sunbelt, Herc, the major rental chains are all doing the same thing. They stock what customers want, and customers increasingly want compact excavators and compact track loaders. When contractors rent by habit, the habits are shifting. The generation of contractors who grew up with backhoes are retiring. The younger generation grew up with compact equipment. They don't have the same attachment to backhoes. They don't see them as essential. Financing structures favor compact equipment now too. Banks and equipment finance companies base loan terms on expected residual values. Backhoe loader residuals are trending down. Compact equipment residuals are holding or improving. That means better interest rates, longer terms, and easier approval for compact equipment purchases. Financial incentives matter. When it's easier to finance a mini excavator than a backhoe loader, contractors follow the path of least resistance. The manufacturers see the future clearly. JCB, who built their reputation on backhoe loaders, who manufactured over 1 million backhoes, who made JCB a generic term for the category in multiple countries, even JCB is diversifying aggressively into compact equipment. They produce mini excavators, compact track loaders, skid steers, telehandlers. The backhoe loader is still their flagship product, but they're building lifeboats because they understand the flagship is sinking. Case Construction Equipment, which introduced the first integrated backhoe loader in America way back in 1957, now markets compact excavators with the same enthusiasm they once reserved for backhoes. The company that defined the category is hedging its bets. Caterpillar, with its massive dealer network and legendary brand loyalty, is pushing compact equipment hard. Their dealer meetings emphasize mini excavators and compact track loaders. The sales incentives favor compact equipment. Cat isn't abandoning backhoes, but they're clearly repositioning for a future where backhoes are peripheral rather than central to their compact equipment strategy. Will the backhoe loader disappear entirely? Probably not. There will always be niche applications where the multi-purpose design makes sense. Small municipalities with limited budgets, rural contractors who need true versatility, developing markets where specialized equipment is less available. The backhoe loader will survive in these spaces, but survival in the margins isn't the same as thriving in the mainstream. The deeper question is what this decline tells us about industrial evolution. The backhoe loader succeeded brilliantly for 50 years because it solved a real problem. How do you give contractors maximum capability with minimum equipment investment? The answer was a compromise machine that did many things adequately rather than one thing exceptionally. That worked in an era of simpler construction, less regulation, lower productivity expectations. But markets mature, specialization increases, standards tighten, and the machines that thrived in an earlier era become obsolete not because they fail, but because the world changes around them. The backhoe loader didn't get worse. Mini excavators just got better and cheaper and more available and more suited to how modern construction actually works. Joseph Cyril Bamford, who pioneered the backhoe loader concept in 1953, probably never imagined his invention would eventually be displaced by the very specialization it once rendered unnecessary. Vino Holopainen, who filed that first swing frame patent in 1948, certainly didn't envision a future where his hydraulic innovation would be superseded by smaller, more focused machines. These inventors solved the problems of their era brilliantly. The fact that new problems emerged requiring new solutions doesn't diminish their achievement. It just proves that nothing in industrial history is permanent. The backhoe loader will exist for years, maybe decades to come. Production will continue, though at declining volumes. Innovation will continue, though at reduced intensity. Sales will continue, though increasingly concentrated in specific niches. The machine isn't dead, but the era of the backhoe loader, the era when this multi-purpose yellow giant was the default choice, the essential tool, the machine every contractor needed, that era is over. We're just watching the aftermath now. The long, slow fade of a machine that changed construction forever, and then got changed by construction in return.